Okay, so for video number 5, we're going to look at a Moz API call. Arguably my favorite Moz API call, actually. It's the URL metrics API endpoint. URL metrics is the API service that delivers page authority and domain authority metrics and a whole bunch of other useful sort of, points of information, data points about a specific URL, root domain, or, one of your resources online. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you the URL metrics function in SEO Gadget for Excel, and then I'm going to show you a neat little trick that we can use to check bulk information and write that data to a table. And then obviously you can take that and turn that into a pivot table or do whatever Excel stuff you need to do to get your reports built. So here's one I made earlier. I'm going to demonstrate the Moz URL metrics API call first of all by just making a few changes to this little query here. Let me explain it first of all. So right now we've got equals Moz URL metrics, so that's our function name to speak to the URL metrics API endpoint. And again, I'm working with to range. You'll have noticed all of these videos I always use the helper function to range rather than to fit, and the simple fact of the matter is to range, in my opinion, is a bit more powerful. Certainly you can build more malleable data sets with to range in that it's writing it to a table. You can produce pivot tables from that rather than you using to fit and then to fit coming in and writing all of that data to an array and it being kind of much harder to edit and work with. Okay, so the next bit is after we've got our to range instruction in, the helper function, I'm going to be writing that data to a place called my new table. Next, right now, I'm going to edit this in a moment, but I'm looking at the range A2 to A3, and so yeah, I'm going to change that in a moment just to give you a quick early demo, and then we'll do a bulk test. And remembering this is live, so it could go a little slow. I hope it doesn't, but you never know. And then finally, cols equals this big number here. Now if you go to the Moz API documentation, there's an explanation on the URL metrics API documentation. These are called bit flags. Now the principle behind a bit flag is that if you asked for a value of bit flag number 1 and added that to bit flag I don't know, number 4 or something like that, the value 5 would be unique and it would describe only 2 data points in the output. So this big number here, 133714, etc., is actually a sum of all of the values in the API documentation, and if you go to our instruction manual there is a better explanation of bit flags than that. Anyway, so let's give this a little test drive. What we'll do is, first of all, let's just try one URL. So SEOgadget.com, which is obviously in cell A2. I'm going to press return and we'll get a little OK here. Now we've got to make a table, obviously we haven't done that yet, and the name of our table is going to be my new table. So what I'll do is I'll create a table with Control L just here, OK that, and then on the head to design, and I'm going to name it my new table. Now we've already cached the request from the URL metrics API, so if I press return, in pops my data, and we can see as we scroll along, look, we've got a whole bunch of stuff to play with. So the linking title and the root domain. Oh wow, I mean there's just so much to work with here. You have to go through the Moz API documentation really to understand what each of these little flags are, but they're called JSON response fields. They're the field names for the familiar metrics that we know and love from the URL metrics API. So for example, just here, look, page authority and domain authority. So there are lots and lots of things that you can work with in there, and super powerful. Okay, so let's just assume for a moment that you'd like to check a slightly larger batch of URLs than just one at a time. So the way that we do this, if we go back to the function here, we looked at the URL metrics output and just to fetch some data from cell A2. We can make that a range. So if I just drag this down to a batch of say 100 URLs or so, and just press return, then what we'll get after a moment, this can take just a little while longer than a single API call. You can see there the timeout in Excel is having a little bit of fun, but there we go, it's actually run that query. So now if we just press return again, look, it's cached and we've got the data there. So Have fun with that. We're going to be writing a little bit more about the Moz API toolset on the blog. But in the meantime, I hope that's enough for you to get started. And yeah, thanks a lot for using SEO Gadget for Excel.